recording here too. All right. So I've started the recording of the meeting.
All right. Good evening, everyone. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Montclair Planning Board. Notice of this meeting is published on Montclair's website, posted in the lobby of the municipal building, and is also published in local papers. We are being broadcast live on channel 34. We're being streamed live on YouTube, and YouTube video will be available on demand after the meeting is through. This meeting is a quasi-judicial proceeding, and we are acting in exercising powers and procedures that resemble that of a court of law, where we're obligated to objectively determine facts and draw conclusions from those facts. As a result, we ask that all questions and comments during the proceedings be limited to only those issues that the board may legitimately consider in reaching their decision, and that decorum appropriate for a judicial hearing is expected to be maintained at all times. And that includes everybody refraining from clicking on the message button that this medium might allow them to exercise. I don't know whether we've been able to gain control over that.
That's been disabled, John. They can send a message to me, and I'm the only person who will receive it.
All right, very good. All right, so with that said, we first thing on our agenda is our roll call, and I, of course, am here.
Okay, Vice Chair Brodock.
I'm here.
Mayor Spiller.
Present.
Mr. Cook is excused. Councillor Schlager.
Here.
Ms. Willis.
Here.
Mr. Rooney.
Here.
Mr. Ian Wally.
Here.
Ms. Lockman.
Here, sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Barr. Tim Barr, are you here? Okay. Mr. Gilmer.
Here.
Okay, and we've got Mr. Galvin as the board attorney, right?
Yes, ma'am.
David Baldagio, board engineers here too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay, we have minutes, first from the July 13th, 2020 meeting that we had some discussion on at the beginning of our last meeting.
Right, the latest version of the minutes, which were amended by Ms. Willis, and I believe Mr. Ian Wally added some edits, and the final round of edits were from Mr. Gilmer, and they were distributed by email to everybody today.
And me too, Janice.
Today or previously?
I think Daniel used my version.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Right.
So,
Yep, correct.
I'll move approval of the minutes.
is there a second?
Yeah, second, Daniel, second.
I see it. I'm going to do the roll call because I want to make sure that everybody's name. Chair Nguyen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brodock?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller? These are the minutes from July 13th.
Yes.
He did say yes.
Oh, he did. Okay. I didn't hear. Councillor Schlager?
Yes.
Ms. Willis?
Yes.
Mr. Rooney?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Wally?
Yes.
Ms. Lockman?
Yes.
And Mr. Gilmer? Okay.
Yes.
All right, we have minutes from July 27th.
Are there any changes or corrections to the July 27th minutes? I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Was that John Wynn?
Second,
That was.
Second from, who second, was that Carmel?
Carol.
Carol,
Carol.
okay. All right, I'm going to do the roll call. Wynn, Chair Wynn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brodock,
Yes.
Counselor, Mayor Spiller,
Yes.
Counselor Slager,
Yes.
Ms. Willis,
Yes.
Mr. Rooney,
Yes.
Mr. Ian Wally,
Yes.
Ms. Lockman,
Yes.
and Mr. Gilmore.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, that brings us to the resumption of the application of 37 Orange Road.
Before we move in, I just want to identify, we have somebody on the phone, call-in user number 6. Can you tell me who you are? All right, well, all right, let's keep going.
Oh, excuse me, Janice. It's Tony.
Yeah,
I'm recused from this one, so I'll sign off. But if you wouldn't mind, if you're getting to item number 6, could I impose upon you to send me a text if you're getting to that tonight, and I'll jump back on? Would you mind?
okay.
Okay. My cell phone is 201
Uh-huh,
723
uh-huh,
3086.
okay,
Thanks so much.
okay. All right. So, Mr. Troutner, Mr. Troutner, I have unmuted you. Everybody else, board members should be muted right now, except for whoever's making the presentation. I think everybody's muted. Tom?
Okay, how's that? That better? Perfect.
Good.
Good evening, everybody. It's Tom Troutner from the law firm of Chiesa, Shanian, and Giatomasi, here on behalf of the applicant HP 37 Orange Road, Montclair, LLC. Continuation of our application for preliminary and final major site plan approval. There was a significant change to the project that we'd like to go over this evening based on comments previously received from the board and its professionals. We've submitted updated plans to reflect a reduction from a proposed 46-unit, 4-story mixed-use building to a 40-unit, 4-story mixed-use building. So it doesn't change, in essence, the variances that were sought or a lot of the things that were testified to, but there are some architectural changes we'd like to go over. So we have Jack Raker with us tonight from Minnow and Wasco, and then also Brian Stolar on behalf of the applicant would also like to speak to some of these changes and the impact they have in terms of, we believe, addressing some of these comments made by the board.
Who's that?
Okay, Brian, I just unmuted you, and Jack, I unmuted you. I don't know where the feedback's coming from.
When you unmute me, hold on,
I think it's coming from you, Brian.
it is. Okay. Let me actually try my headphones. So hold on one moment. This should be better. Okay.
Janice, can you hear me?
Is that Jack? Jack
That was
Raker?
Jack again, yes.
Yeah, I hear
Want to
you.
make
So
sure. Okay.
I'm going to pull up the presentation that you sent me, okay?
I'll turn it off, I guess. Huh?
And I think the feedback's coming from you, Brian.
Yeah, because we're at the opposite end of a room.
All right, here, I'm going to come here. Put your volume on. Just come around.
Okay.
Yeah, take your headphones on because I have.
Okay, so hold on. All right, hold on one more second. Get rid of the headphones. Okay, we should be good now. You good? No?
Yeah,
Oh, you are hearing me. Okay.
I can hear you. I'm pulling up the full screen mode of the plans.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why it got black for a second.
No, I'm just wanting to get it, make it as big as possible so people can read it. And I know I'm blocking some of it. If I'm blocking something, just let me know and I'll move things around on the screen.
Yeah. And it comes
Jack, do you want to add it?
my office,
Jack?
because the dogs would not work for 2 or 3 hour meetings. I don't want to have a lot of interruptions.
Jack, do you want me to give you the ability to annotate?
I would appreciate that when it's time for me to do my testimony. Yes.
Okay. I did already.
Thank you.
Tom, are you ready to start?
Yes, Janice. So I believe Mr. Stolar was previously sworn in, but if Mr. Galvin like, maybe we swear him in again.
Okay, let me make sure.
I'm good. I'm off mute. You ready? Mr. Stoller, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your full name for the record, spell your last name.
Brian Stolar, Stolar.
All right, your witness, Mr. Troutner.
Oh, great. So, Mr. Stolar, if you could just if you could give the board an overview of the proposed changes which have been submitted to the board in advance of tonight's hearing, and you know, what drove them, and specifically what we're seeking to accomplish.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks, everyone. It's been it's been a long road, and this is a pretty surreal experience. It's my first virtual planning board meeting, so I understand you've had a few. Back in March, there was a lot of concern about making sure that the retail would be a good use and that the parking would be sufficient. Actually, perhaps we benefited from having the knowledge of what's gone on in this pandemic. Nobody can ever say they benefited from it. But as a result of the knowledge, it drills down even further to what would make sense, which is a casual, we like a food hall concept, a lot of pickup, a lot of delivery, and otherwise quick eating. We actually think that breakfast would probably be 75%, grabbing coffee and a bagel, staying or leaving, and a small percentage of delivery, mostly for offices. Lunch, we think will be 50% delivery from going through with our F&B team, and then the rest would be folks eating there, grabbing a bite, or picking it up on their own. Dinner is going to be much more limited because there are a lot of restaurants in the area that focus on dinner. We'll never be able to justify a $1 million liquor license or compete with the hotel that has much nicer park features than we could fit in this small space. So what we did is we reduced our unit count from 46 to 40. And then as a result, that took us to a point using Jerry Giosa's numbers, his percentage of proposed residents that would be home on the busiest night, Saturday night, and his proposed percentage for the number of cars for the residents and what was left. And previously, we only had 23 left after the residents on a Saturday night, using Mr. Giosa's 85% of those cars still being there. Now we have 29.8, so obviously 29 of the parking part of a parking space. So 29 is what we have. And so we meet, and initially the numbers that we were talking about were 27 for a casual type restaurant, but that's not really the point. The point is really we have 27 spaces for a very small retail space that's going to live a lot off of parents, drop-off, school, the office, the Regis, even hotel guests. You know, not everybody wants to just go and get the grab and go at the hotel. And candidly, the grab and go at the hotel won't compete with this because it's a refrigerated area, you know, with a case in the lobby. That's all it is. So we did that, and then we were able to take advantage of, candidly, a fresh look. We weren't burned out anymore, and we're all staying at home, spending a lot of time. So we made a lot of changes that we think would work better when people are thinking about multifamily going forward. And it could always be COVID-28 or something down the road. And I think with the interconnectivity of travel, with the advances in technology and medicine, the inevitable error, the inevitable unpredicted event might happen. So a lot of folks in real estate are talking about how do they make their buildings, the built environment, pandemic ready, pandemic proof. I won't go into any kind of philosophy or discussion, waste time, but I'll tell you what we did. So we had 40 units. Actually, originally we had 50. And then before we submitted, after some conversation, we decided to go to 46. And before the redevelopment plan was modified, it permitted about 90. So now we're less than half. And in order to really make the project work better, we were able to do a number of things once we looked at units. We did increase the size of a few units and took out a very substantial amount of square feet. We took out about 7,000, 8,000. Jack, when you get up, maybe you could tell the exact number, square feet, by dropping 46 units. So we made some units bigger, but we also did some other things. So the first thing we did is we drastically changed the amenity area. We don't have to go to now, but Jack will get into the details. We have a co-working center. It's more spread out. We have I want to say a Zoom room. I'm sorry, use WebEx, but we have a virtual meeting room, let's call it. I think Zoom's become like Google when people say Zoom. And we think that's going to be something that's very much, especially for a lot of empty nesters who we think we're going to serve with about 18 of our units that are quite large and really designed for local folks to be able to stay in Montclair, as opposed to leaving when they sell their house because they can't fit in a 900 square foot or 800 square foot apartment. Then the lobby became bigger. It was for two reasons. The first reason is that, or another reason. Another reason is we removed the hallway. Some of you may remember the east-west hallway that went through the lobby from the garage out to the plaza. And that's because we want patrons of retail to be able to park in the garage and walk right out. Well, that took up a big chunk of the lobby. It was just there. Wouldn't be used a lot, but we had to have it. So then that makes the lobby bigger because that's out. And what really happened and what drove all this and also fixed a problem I know a number of the members were very concerned about. I know in particular, I remember talking with you, Carmel, at the planning board meeting. We switched the two small elevators. I don't know, maybe the easiest thing, instead of giving me, can Jack put a indication up there where they are, where I'm talking?
Jack, I'll let you do that.
Can you just
Hold on.
where the two elevators used to be so everybody understands? Just show it, just a little marker, arrow or something.
I would like to just mark this presentation into the record since we're referring to it. Tom, do you have the number?
I believe it's A78.
Okay.
See if Jack is here.
That'll be the presentation dated 8/10/20. So Jack, you have the control. Yep.
Just since you're looking at that area, can I ask a question? Yes?
Sure.
I think
So you'd circle that area. In the former plan, there was a mechanical room there. And there's no mechanical room that I can see on that floor at all.
Okay, so let me speak to that. I'm going to let Jack speak. My back on?
Jack needs to be sworn in.
Okay, not now. I'll let Jack speak to the specifics.
Okay.
We did not eliminate a mechanical room. Obviously, we can't eliminate a mechanical room.
I just don't see it.
Yeah, well,
Hey, just time out.
I assure you,
Everyone time out.
what used to be there in the vast majority of that space.
Brian, stop.
Right. Hold on.
Jack, raise your right hand. I can't see him, that's why I'm pausing. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, state your full name for the record, spell your last name.
Jack Raker, R-A-K-E-R.
All right, and Jack, you're with the architect?
Correct.
All right, Mr. Chairman, do we accept Mr. Reeker's credentials?
Yes, we'll accept.
All right, you may proceed, Mr. Reeker.
All right, so Jack, the only thing I was asking you is originally in that space, the stairwell was turned the other way. There were two small elevators, and the question is, did we also eliminate a mechanical room?
Yeah, there was a mechanical room that served the two elevators.
Right.
That is no longer needed in this new plan.
Okay, thank you. So we moved the elevators. What we did is we put in one elevator that is now able to serve the building much larger elevator. It's substantially larger. By weight, for example, it can hold 4,500 to 5,000 pounds versus 3,000 to 3,500 pounds. And it's a higher speed. It's something that didn't even exist 5 or 10 years ago. So we won't have the hydraulic slow elevator. It has a machine room of its own. And it'll be much quicker. People will be able to stand much further apart. You can see where the elevator is. It enables move-ins to be very quick, and we will have an elevator operator there during the move-ins. And again, after the first initial move-ins, we have 10, 12, 15 a year will be a lot, but at least it'll be managed better. And one of the reasons that the lobby got bigger is because of that. And that hallway was no longer needed because we actually found a solution to a problem that candidly we had never solved for you folks before. And that problem was how to do loading and move-ins from Centro Verde. We had stairs, we had a metal ramp we're going to put in place. Now we have a very long, very gradual ADA compliant ramp that's at a very slight slope that Jack will speak to. And that allows anybody to park in the garage, walk right onto Centro Verde, sidewalk right onto the plaza. We no longer need this cut-through hallway. And it also allows move-ins to be dramatically better because before they had to get everything over to that corner that Jack had circled earlier. So we really ended up with a much better, and it came from, well, can we do a bigger elevator? We don't need two for a 40-unit building. We have two. And the higher speed and the larger size we think will work much better. And then the lobby has good central access for the elevator. If you look at where it was instead of being off in the corner, and we think it works much better. So those are really all the things in looking here that we did, and we really think it makes it a better building.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was curious about having only one elevator in any building. What happens when you have a mechanical failure of the one elevator? Generally, isn't it good to have more than one elevator in a building?
Well, if you have a problem, first of all, there are not emergency, but there are kind of like with a car that it can limp. They have limp modes. They go very slow, and it's never going to be completely off. We're going to have the power. We're going to have a generator, so we're not concerned about that. It is not required to have two elevators for only 40 units, and there are many buildings that don't. And the benefits we think far outweigh that potential. Also, we will have, like we always have, just like the hotel, the premium service that they provide, which is usually a 1 to 3 hour turnaround. And again, they have a limp mode or whatever you want to call it that these things can be in. Anyway, so that we think it's a far better improvement.
Question. Brian, I think you said that the residential lobby size was increased. Yet, if you look at the old plan, it said the residential lobby was 1,740 square feet, and the new one says something, 1596?
I-
So it actually got
Jack,
smaller.
Jack will have to speak to it. The retail did not get bigger, and the hole that used to cut through the lobby is not there anymore. So.
Well, I'm just looking at your plans and it got
I
smaller.
hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Jack, I don't know if you have an answer to that right now.
Yeah, that's correct. But it's actually not bigger. It's just more open, Brian.
Okay.
Before we had that package room out along and when I go through the plan, I can explain some of the details. It's not necessarily bigger. It's just more open.
And the package room is not counted in the square footage? Or it is?
I believe so.
Okay.
I could double check that for you, but I believe so.
Well, Jack,
I don't really care. I just want to make sure that, your numbers are correct in the final product that you give us.
sure. Well, again, there used to be a hallway there, so it looked to me like it has to be bigger because the hallway's not there anymore. But we didn't increase the retail at all, and the layout we think is much more open, as Jack said, and the elevator is much more central. So we think it's a better layout.
So, Mr. Chairman, we actually don't have any further questions of Mr. Stolar, but certainly if the board has more questions of the public, and obviously we have Mr. Raker's testimony as well, which sort of transitions right across.
I do have a question. Where will the generator be located for that elevator?
It's not any different than whatever generator we had otherwise. So
My understanding is the elevator is not on a battery backup, Brian, but not on a generator.
I'm sorry. It's battery. Excuse me. Stand corrected. It's another benefit of this kind of next generation. It uses a lot less than a hydraulic elevator that has a big piston. So I'm sorry. It's not a generator. It's a battery. Which is even better, frankly, because you don't think about it not starting, which happened to a lot of folks, it seems, over the last 5 days. A lot of people I talked to said, I spent all this money on a generator and it wouldn't start. So at least with batteries, you don't have that.
I think we have a question from Mr. Dennemiller.
Oh, thanks for unmuting me. Yes, so this plan looks great. My question about the relocation or the new door with the ramp near the loading zone, is there a change to the pedestrian crossing Verde for folks who are accessing the adjacent property?
Well, this is not for folks to access the adjacent property. We spent a lot of time on that at the earlier meetings. No one's parking here and going anywhere but our retail.
Okay.
We have to enforce that, and we're going to make it free for them to go to our retail while providing accommodation. Not going to park here. You're going in the Central Verde deck has hundreds and hundreds of spaces. So.
Okay, great. I'm satisfied.
No problem. And
what did you just say about the Brian? What did you say about has hundreds and hundreds of spaces?
The deck next door. If anybody wants to park anywhere in this area, I think they go in the 550 whatever car deck next door. Our parking is only for our residents and our retail user. That's it.
To me, that question remains open as to who has access to that deck next door, the Orange Road deck.
We're not involved. We're not involving it at all.
Forth with it. Some are restricted spaces.
We have nothing to do with it at all.
At this point, I don't know how many spaces are. I know that, but you keep saying that that's available for people, but maybe it's not.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to create any issues. It's my fault. Let me make it really clear. Nobody will be allowed to park in this garage for any other purpose than going to our retail. So whatever happens in the other garage, I guess it's best I don't say anything. I don't control it. I don't manage it. And, that's the facts. So what we did here is now there's very easy access for somebody to get into the garage and out. And frankly, it's not just for people in the retail. Even a resident can go out that way if for some reason they want to walk down Central Verde the other way instead of going out the front door. So we just think it's a good benefit, the access.
Do you have any other questions?
I have a question. Is the only access to that refuse room through the outside door, or is there another door there?
I don't know. I presume there's an inside door, Jack. I can't profess to know exactly.
I'm sorry, Brian. I'm just confused of whether she's asking you or me, and I don't answer the question unless I'm doing the testimony. But there is an interior door to the room behind, but not to that refuse room.
So is your answer no, there's no interior door to the refuse room? To use the refuse room, you have to go outside?
That is correct. The refuse room, correct, is access from the exterior only.
So
and who puts the garbage in there?
What they would do in this case, well, first of all, for the residential, it's not in the retail space at all, so it's where it would need to be. And for the retail space, they would go down that ramp and bring their trash out to that room. I have seen a lot of times when there's a back door, I think probably the better approach is that you don't have one, because then you don't have to worry about any of the issues that you would have with a door into a food area from a refuse room.
But it doesn't look like there's a back door to the retail space. It looks like there's a door to that, whatever it's called, the back of house space. And then the refuse room is blocked off. And it looks like the retail has to go out and then go into the refuse room from the outside. I just, want to know.
I see what you're saying. I don't see a door there where it says back of house, Jack. There has to be a way for them to get deliveries and to go down that ramp. And if you don't have a door in that back of house area, you have to add. Presume you have one though. It's just I don't see it. I agree with Carmel.
That's correct. There'll likely, Brian, be a door at the top of that ramp into that back of house space to get deliveries. Currently not shown.
Okay.
Please do that, Jack. Thank you.
Other questions?
Okay, I'll turn off my sound or whatever.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. For the eating, the food court and will there be outdoor seating for those kiosks and restaurants that are there?
Yes, the plaza is public.
Mm-hmm.
We would comply with all of the zoning requirements that you have now with every restaurant who are clamoring to get every inch they can get. And they will be able to use the outside. And we're going to definitely make that part of the usage of this food hall. And no matter how it lays out in the end, again, I think that the pandemic has caused us to think even more about doing this type of use. But however it's being done, certainly people are going to want to take the opportunity to sit outside. And frankly, it's public. So, it's just like a sidewalk.
Okay. Will we be going over Barton Ross's comments and recommendations, or are we to assume that they've all been taken care of?
We'll go over those.
Okay.
With Mr. Rager.
Okay, thank you.
Along those lines, a quick question. Certainly you highlight something that is certainly at the forefront now. We deal with in a lot of other places. Any of these food establishments are certainly tied in closely to quick pickup, drop-off, delivery style function. Where do you foresee all of these DoorDash and other entities that would be picking up and dropping off food potentially into the future, parking their vehicles to do that?
So again, other folks can speak to it. We originally had a drop-off area in the middle of the plaza for 2 cars, I believe. And the planning board felt overall, after discussion, that it was preferred not to have it. There is the ability to park a car and not be in the lane of traffic, even though you're on the road. And I'm not sure what the other thoughts were, because we wanted the drop-off, but that was the pleasure of the planning board, so we removed it.
Well, you're going to have a door in the back of the house. to get out to that ramp for your refuse. So why couldn't your DoorDash operators go into the garage and pick up right there?
Yeah, that certainly can be done. But we're going to find a way. I'm not saying it's a fatal issue that can't be handled, but to the point of the mayor,
It's either there,
there's a lot
either there or the loading zone.
Sorry?
The loading zone also is right there.
Yes, yes. So it can work. I think it's more of an issue for people dropping off other people than it is for maybe the DoorDash and the like. They're very resourceful, those folks, and they could certainly use a loading area. And during the day, there's often more parking than there is in the evening here because a lot of residents might be out, or they used to be out. Maybe they'll be out again soon.
Chair Nguyen. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, just for the architect, just eyeballing the plan.
Carmel, can we try and hold back on the architect and let him give his full testimony before we start? You know, we've kind of blended things in here, but you have got a lot of questions about the physical situation. He hasn't really testified. He's the expert on that, so that might answer some of your questions. You know, his testimony might answer some of your questions. And then we keep the record a little clearer also, okay?
John,
are there any other questions?
I think we have to open it up to the public. If the public has any questions,
Yeah.
Mr. Stolar.
Well, I want to make sure that the board doesn't have any other questions before. And do we have any other questions from the board? All right. And are there any questions from members of the public with respect to Mr. Stolar's testimony?
Hold on, let me just check the participants list.
Right. I will wait for your feedback, Jana.
Hold on. Okay.
Hello? Janice?
Who's that?
Martin Schwartz. For some reason, I'm not showing up in a participants list. But
I got you. Your name's on the list.
Oh, it's not showing me. Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, I have a quick question for Brian. Just for the record, first of all, for the board, the revised plan, this plan up on the screen, is not showing up on the documents page on the website, and particularly given the virus, it's very difficult for members of the public, particularly who have no experience with this, to see what's happening here. So just a heads up, unless I missed it, I did not see this.
Brian, this is like the PowerPoint presentation that was submitted just prior to tonight's meeting. The amended plans were uploaded to the website.
This is reflected in those plans, because the date did not show a reflected a revised plan that I saw. I might have missed it. There's a lot of documents.
It's on there. You have to go if you go to the website and it says submission date June 31st, 2020, all the documents they submitted are in that folder.
Okay. I saw an earlier date, so I didn't go to that. I figured those were the older dates. So again, it's a bit confusing for somebody trying to find the most updated document. Nonetheless, just a quick question for Mr. Stolar.
Brian, this is like the PowerPoint presentation that was submitted just prior to tonight's meeting. The amended plans were uploaded to the. I'm sorry, who's speaking?
That's an echo of you.
That's me.
Of what you just said.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
I
really
don't
weird.
know where that came from. This is
A revised plan
part of
that
the
I saw.
fun
I
of.
might have missed it. There's, there's a lot of documents.
It looks like it's coming through Dr. Baskerville.
The website and it says submission
Is
date
somebody watching this on
June
TV?
31st,
I'm trying
2020.
to.
All the documents they submitted are in
You should
that
probably mute
folder.
all the.
Okay, I saw
all
an
the
earlier
microphones,
date,
Dennis.
so I didn't go to that. I figured that was those were the older dates. So again, it's a bit trying to find the most updated document. Nonetheless, just a quick question for Mr. Stolar. Yes, John.
Right, this is the PowerPoint presentation that was submitted just prior to tonight's meeting. The amended plans were uploaded to the I'm sorry, who's speaking?
That's an echo of you.
It's me.
Of what you just said.
Well, that's really weird.
I don't know where that came from. This is
a revised plan that I saw. I might have missed it. There's a lot of documents.
You have to go to the website and it says submission date
somebody watching this on
June 31st, 2020. All the documents they submitted are in
You don't
that
need to do that in a minute.
Okay, I saw an earlier date, so I
still see people's microphones.
Something was going
Dr.
wild.
I can't mute her.
Yeah, it's a bit.
Dr. Baskerville.
Find the most updated document.
You
Nonetheless,
mute your
just a quick question for Mr. Stolar.
microphone. Anybody else out there who's not showing a microphone muted? I think hers is the only one that I see.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, so somebody had their TV on, obviously, or a few people. That was a bit crazy. Nonetheless, quickly, Mr. Stolar, in your continued request for a parking variance, is there any engineering or structural requirement that is not allowing you to meet the code for the required parking spaces?
Hold on, let me unmute him.
I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted? Okay.
Good.
This was something, I was going to say, if you attended the meeting, I know you did, that was gone over by our engineer, by our parking traffic engineers at great length. So I'm not going to go back and try to reiterate or restate what they said. Obviously, the space that we have provides a number of spaces we can do with these lifts. And that's why we're asking for the variance. We're not saying anything more than that. And I think you have your report from Mr. Giosa, that he puts in his own professional estimations or calculations of what the residential and the retail need. And that's what we're following.
Got it. But again, there is no physical issue, no physical problem with the site or any other structural element that is preventing you from providing parking to code such that you would not need to request a variance. I think that's a yes or a no.
Time out, please. Morton, I don't think this is an appropriate question for Mr. Stolar. The response has got to come from one of his experts. He's going to try to answer, but we don't want him to.
I really don't want to answer. I agree. And I don't think this
with me.
was asked and answered many times by our engineer.
It's fine. It's fine. Since we have a revised plan here, I just wanted to clarify for the record.
Excuse me, Martin. I hope I didn't do anything to upset you, because first you call me Brian, then you call me Mr. Soto. So I'll just keep calling you Martin. And hopefully you'll call me Brian.
Brian, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just speaking for the record. No problem.
I'm just kidding. So there is no change to the parking. It's the same number of spaces, identical. All that happened is more of them are available for the retail.
All right, any other questions, Martin?
That my question was pretty specific. It was not answered, but if
so you wait for an expert.
That's fine, Counselor.
Tom, you ready to get your witness queued up?
Well, wait a minute, Dennis. Do we have any other questions from the public?
Who's call-in user 7? Do you have any questions? No? Okay.
All right. Mr.
Okay.
Troutner, next witness.
So you have to turn off your sound. Okay, thank you.
Tom, is that coming from you?
That was me, but I think I've just corrected it. So
Okay.
my apologies. So our next witness is Jack Raker from Minnow and Wasco, who will give us an overview of the architectural plans. I think we actually just reswore and requalified Mr. Raker again a few moments ago. So without further ado, Mr. Raker, you're familiar with the application that's the subject of the proceeding tonight, correct?
Yes, I am.
And, can you describe for the board the changes to the plans which are being proposed in conjunction with our request for site plan approval?
Absolutely. I'm just requesting the ability to draw right now.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, Brian pretty much covered a lot of the stuff that we did on the ground floor, but I'd like to start by saying that the first and most major change was the loading, the public access to the garage. Initially, the public access came through the front of the project, along and then into the garage, right through where the current elevator is shown and adjacent to where the current direct access to the lobby is shown. Now we have it coming right off the loading area, which is a much better location, keeps that traffic moving away from that central area of the project between the retail and the lobby. Also allows us to get a much larger lobby. And I realize there was I believe there's a miscalculation here. We'll have to get this number changed. I believe the correct area and square footage of that lobby is about 1,825 square feet. So it does grow slightly from the previous plan. Now, additionally, the public would come in, drive, park, and then access the Centro Verde location, access point, and continue on to the retail, just like I've drawn on that plan. This allows us to, putting that access there allows us a couple of things. One, it takes move-ins away from having to go across that front public plaza and around down through the garage to enter and access the elevators that were where the stair here used to be. It allows them to then come out of the truck, simply go up the ramp, and access a dual-sided elevator, which is right here. I'm just going to erase some of my drawings now so that I don't get everybody a little confused. Is it easier for you to clear the screen, Janice? Thank you.
I just did. Now you're going to have to I'll have to give you access again.
I tried to erase. It just didn't seem to work.
Yeah.
So, and that allows the access, and while the door was not shown, it was pointed out, we will add a door here. That will allow the trash as well to be accessed through the retail and back through that same location out to that loading area. I think that creates it centralizes the circulation much better. It keeps the front of our building, the front face, very public, and it creates that service access happening along Centro Verde, which I think is a great benefit to this plan. Additionally, I know as Brian testified, we were able to eliminate one elevator by putting in a higher speed, dual access, larger elevator. I think this helped us free up some of the space at the upper levels as well as this level. It allows access for both the residents to come through from the garage and also access from the lobby. It improves circulation. And we can key card the elevator as well, so the public does not have access to this elevator and lobby area. They only have access through that public access along Centro Verde and out to the retail. Okay, could you go to the next sheet?
This it? This is where you want to be?
There you go. Yes, thank you very much. Just a quick change here. This does show the larger plaza area without the drop-off that was requested to be removed. A nice, clear 28-foot plaza area along in front of the project, which we feel is beneficial as well, without that dividing space between the retail and the residential. Next sheet, please. And I'm requesting the ability to draw again, Janice.
You got it.
So with that change, that core change, that freed up the plan to open up at this level to get a greater space for the amenity area. We were able to add a co-work space, and I'll just circle that here. That co-work space, in recent times, we're finding a lot of people are working from home. This will allow that flexibility here to go down and access a Wi-Fi area and not feel like you're isolated in a room. I know all of us can probably relate to that. You'll be able to sit in maybe a small cubicle in in a public area, but still feel isolated enough to feel like you're not out in the open or in an office environment. We feel that's a great add to the plan. That allows also for a larger clubroom space that opens out to the terrace. We've always had that terrace. It's always been there. Nothing's changed from that respect, but the core has shifted these elements around somewhat because we've shifted that stair location and the elevator location. Additionally, now all of our units stack all the way up, and I'm just going to talk about what we had previously to what we have now. Previously, the unit mix was 16 studio units, 12 one-bedroom units, 17 two-bedroom units, and 1 three-bedroom unit. We currently have 5 studio units, 13 one-bedroom units, and 21 two-bedroom units. So we've gone from 46 total units down to 40, reducing the density in the project. Could you take me up to the next level, please, Janice? The next sheet.
Okay, hold on. Oh, I skipped one. There you go.
That's okay. Actually, the next 2 plans are identical. There's really not much to speak of here. The one thing that we did, because we're able to simplify that mix, all of these demising walls stack, simplifying the structure of the project as well. So there was another benefit to the plan. It becomes a more efficient plan. From the exterior, there's nothing that's changed, minus the relocation of the doors at the ground floor. So substantially, while we've moved some of the demising walls in the interior, you're looking at the same grade elevations you were looking at previously. I'm just going to go to the next level.
We're at the 4th level now.
Yeah, it's going to be the roof level, which has been affected as well.
Okay.
The roof level has changed somewhat. It's changed because we have moved the elevators to a different location and rotated the stairwell. Substantially, the roof plan complies with the same requirements of green roof area, solar array area, and we're utilizing the same uses that we were previously up here, some outdoor dining, maybe some covered areas, a small area of elevator vestibule that accesses that upper roof terrace space. Same green roof amount that we had, or very similar green roof amount. Everything complies to the redevelopment plan. Just a small shift in some of the locations of the objects on the roof. The elevator core is still central and still not visible from street level. And I believe one more sheet. Oh, no, actually that was the last of the changes. I do want to take me to the one more sheet. I just do want to end on the elevations to remind everybody we did shift. You could stay right there. Go back to the elevations.
Elevations?
Yeah.
Okay.
That last one. There you go. I wanted to end on this to remind everybody it's been a while since you've seen this project. Substantially, these are the same elevations you've seen before. We did add the door along Centro Verde that provides access, and we eliminated the public access doors along Orange Road. And the material amounts still comply with the resolution, the planning redevelopment plan. They changed just subtly because of the door, the addition of the change in fenestration, but substantially the same. And I think that covers most of the changes unless there are any questions.
Yeah, Mr. Raker, before we move to the board's questions, actually, do you want to just take a few minutes and just go over Mr. Ross's report, which I presume you've had an opportunity to review?
Sure. Just opening up that for me. I believe there are 5 items.
Correct. If you could just maybe run through them, and then obviously maybe Mr. Ross has a comment too.
The first one, yeah, item 1, the first one, we absolutely agree with. We think it's a great change. We will increase that door to a wider door and flip the door swing. We looked at that and we thought that was a great change. So we'll do that. The next one, we are using a powder-coated aluminum railing system at the rooftop amenity, as well as and anywhere there's not a building parapet wall. And there was a comment that I believe we testified to the last time I was there. The fiber cement panels will not be field painted. Well, let me just take a step back on that. We are using the factory colors and the factory finish on those panels. There is field painting done. It's usually just touch-up painting. It's all the factory paint that you use. Everything matches. You don't see any difference. The edges, anywhere you cut these boards, that has to be touched up. So there was a small amount of field painting that has to be done, but we are not painting the entire wall over. I believe the plaza curb ramp details, that's not something that's in my area of expertise or landscape, but I believe that material could be investigated if possible, if needed. And then the last one I think is more of a comment, and we agree.
I ask a question or make a point about the last one, the architectural building lighting. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
So,
all of the exterior lighting is decorative, so it's not needed to comply with any lighting or light levels. It's very low level lighting, and it's utilized to accent certain elements of the architecture.
I'm bringing that out because, as Janice knows, we have a problem with the Mountainside Hospital site where they installed all these post lights that are 12 feet high that glare into the homes that are right across the street from the project. And this has the same potential for that to happen. You have homes that are right across the street from your project, and I just want to make sure that we're not going to run into a problem with that lighting glaring into the homes that are right across the street. So, Solar, you could take a look at that to make sure that that's not going to happen. I'd appreciate that because at the hospital, it's a real problem.
Yeah, I believe that the engineer did testify to shields on those lights, but I don't want to speak for him. But I can tell you that the architectural lighting, the detail architectural lighting, is a very low level and only for accent. It would not be any objectionable at all across the street.
Well, that's also what the hospital said at the time of their testimony. And now they have these lights that just, glare into people's homes. So I'm just asking you to please take a look at that and make sure that that's across the.
Okay.
Thank you. I have some more questions if you want me to carry on here.
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
Go ahead, Carmel.
Okay, so you want to go back to your first slide?
Janice, the first floor plan, please. I think it was the first slide.
Okay. Well, A03, I think, is what I'd like to see.
All right, hold on. Let me move some things around on my screen here.
Okay. You can actually, this one you have in front of you is fine as well. Here's my question. So oops.
You said you wanted A03, so it's going to, I can pull it up.
That's fine. You can leave this one. Okay, so eyeballing this up.
A01, A02, A03. Okay, I got A03.
Okay, you'd agree that this site is a prime location in Montclair Center? Yes?
Oh, yes, this is a great location.
Okay, and it's next to a hotel, which hopefully will at some point have a lot of foot traffic? We hope. When you look at this sidewalk in front of the building, it looks, just from eyeballing it, that the driveway and the transformer room take up about 25 or 30% of the street there, the public realm. The street is the public realm. And yet we have 25% or 30% of that street that's taken up with a two-way driveway and a large transformer room. Why didn't you try to design this project so that you have this alley, Centro Verde, which is a dead street, that where you could put those things on that alley and leave that streetscape, the wide open sidewalk for public use, for another retail space?
I believe this was testified to previously, but I can speak to it. I know that Centro Verde does have a very narrow aisleway, and access, I believe, for parking would become very difficult. And I also think that our hands are tied when it comes to the transformer vault. We have to work with the utility and where power's coming in. And we don't generally have a lot of options there. They tell us where it's going.
Well, did you have other options for that transformer space? You're surrounded by two buildings where there must be other transformers. One would think that you would.
Again, I'd have to go back to the engineer's testimony and where power is coming into the building and where power is accessed. And I believe that is the location that we have access.
Just Brian, just to add for a second, that transformer room is in the building. It doesn't project out into the plaza at all.
I know that, but it's taking away space that could be another retail store. It could be another activation point for this sidewalk.
There's no retail store that could be 14 feet deep or something like that.
My point is have.
I mean, we looked at it thoroughly, and the fact is that this is the best place for access to the building by far. And as far as the transformer room, as Jack said, it's where the connection is, it's where the utility wants it to be. And if it wasn't there, all we would do is have more package or more storage. There's nothing else we really need to put.
You've got, this is supposed to be a mixed-use building. And basically, you have, 2,000 square feet of retail, and the rest of it is residential. And that little piece of retail allowed you to build many more units. Whereas it seems to me, if you just, you had a loophole here. You built the retail space just to get the units, not really to activate and to make this a beautiful building for the people that live here.
Can you go back to the front of the building, Janice?
The what? Which one?
It's the front elevation, because it's hard to look at it and
You wanted the elevation. Okay.
I put the other front one separately, but the front elevation, which is on top, sitting stepped back quite far from the curb, probably 30 plus feet, has this plaza in front of it. It's about as activated as you can get, and we think it is fabulous. The idea that it is something that perhaps shouldn't be there on the retail. We really don't agree. We think this neighborhood desperately needs something mid-block. It has nothing. It has the garage, it has Centro Verde Drive. Right now it's an auto body shop and a gas station. It has a small garage for the Mr. Mesh's plumbing shop. And you go all the way to the hotel. And then when you get to the hotel, candidly, even though I'm involved in it, it's not a place to just pick up something, grab a coffee, do something. All the residents in this area, all of the residents of Ballingham Room, all the office workers, all of the parents picking up, dropping off. This is a great use. So we don't think it's a de minimis idea. We think it's a great idea.
Well, I guess I disagree. As you walk down Orange Road from the hotel, you get to the driveways that go into the garbage pickup area of the hotel. And then next to that are the driveways that go into that plumber shop. Then there's 2 driveways for your project, and then there's a transformer room. So in this prime location in Montclair, you have, I don't know how many feet of dead space there, where one would think, I would think, we would try to activate that corner of your project as best you could and use the Centro Verde, which is a dead road, for all your kind of functional things like driveways and transformer rooms, etc. So we can agree to disagree.
I have to respond because you said at least 2 things that are just not the case. Just maybe you don't understand. You referred to the hotel's garbage. That's the main entrance to the portico chair of the hotel. So
I'm sorry. I thought
let me finish. We have very large, very substantial, and very expensive gates that are closed 95% of the time unless there's a delivery. That's there. As far as Mr. Mesh, we have no control over what he does or doesn't do. As far as the gas station, the auto body shop, which is, I agree with you, it's really an eyesore. We hope to eliminate that eyesore by this application. Otherwise, some auto body company from out of town is going to run an auto body shop there because the family is done. And then as far as the front of this building, I have to beg to differ that it's really fully activated. That small little area where the transformer room is doesn't really have the impact on activation in any way. Look at it, it's almost the entire building is activated. And we can't get access for residents of Centro Verde. First of all, because it's such a small aisle, it would be terrible that all the traffic come in a one-way alleyway that's there. It's a small little road. And secondly, the grade doesn't permit it. You can't just walk in. That's why we have to have that ADA ramp for the loading and for the access. We wouldn't have a main door. And why would you make people walk around the front or have pick up or drop off of somebody who's coming here on the side? We looked at this many times, and I guess we're just going to have to respectfully disagree.
We disagree. Yeah.
I'd also like to. I just want to point out too. This is Jack Raker speaking. There's a great public plaza in front of this project, and those, well, we're not really showing you all the tables and chairs and the active uses, the seating that might be there. I think that I would never consider any public plaza space in front of a great building, especially one with a residential lobby and retail, even if there is a 25-foot section that has a transformer. I would say that it creates no cross traffic there, that allows the public to utilize that space in front of that area versus having additional cross traffic of access to the building or access to the retail. I would say that public plaza in front of the transformer room is a great space.
That is a great space.
But I do understand I do understand your point about inactive facade, and I honestly think that we have a lot of great active facade here, and we do so much of it. I do believe that the residents will utilize that space out in front of that transformer room, out away from the doors and the cross traffic. I think that there is some public benefit to that. And as far as access to the garage, I understand your point that you'd like it off of Centro Verde, but it's just from a height standpoint and from a elevation standpoint, a grading standpoint, it's just not possible.
All right, I have more questions. Should I just soldier on here?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So looking on page A04.
This is AO.
A04.
One more, I believe.
Yeah. So on the right side where you have that 2-bedroom, all the last 2-bedroom apartment there, it has a terrace.
The one along Centro Verde?
Yes. The last apartment on Centro Verde. There's a terrace, and then there's a blank space, and then there's another terrace, and there's a blank space. So I don't understand whose accesses those terraces that are there. Are they for the 2-bedroom apartments, or what are they?
Correct. For? Those are private terraces just at that level for those units. So that 2-bedroom unit all the way at the end gets that corner terrace, the one you see on the corner. Mm-hmm. And I believe the other 2-bedroom, the one that's toward the plaza courtyard, the project courtyard, has access to the other terrace.
And the space in between that has nothing, no chairs or anything on it, what is that? That's just a rooftop?
It's just rooftop, or it could be, it's just some rooftop area.
Okay.
Hey, it's a good point, Carmel. We think these 2 terraces are great. There's really no access for the rest of the residents to get there. But I think that space in between, we're so happy with the way the green roofs came out. They look fabulous. The hotel, I think it's made a huge difference. I think that should be a green area, not necessarily for the fact that it's going to do that much environmentally, but I think it's a nice way, and it'll be something that would even be visible from the rest of the whole courtyard where the rest of the folks are sitting. So
you plan then to do something with those 2 blank spots there, maybe?
Well, at least the one between the 2 terraces. I'm not sure in the back whether there's any other limitations to that, but certainly between the 2 of them, I think that makes the most sense, just from looking at it. Thanks for the idea.
And the same question actually applies to the 1-bedroom all the way north. That has a private terrace and then 2 blank spaces on either side of it.
Yeah, but
that is correct.
Right. That's just one unit. And, probably, again, next to the courtyard, it would make a lot of sense to put something there. I think on the north side, it probably would, I don't know if it would be visible. We can certainly look at it. I'm not arguing for or against it, but I can assure you that if we think these are visible and helpful to either these residents, from the view from across or anything, we'll do that.
And then continuing around on top of the mechanical area, right on the top, the north part of the drawing. What is that for? There's squares. Is that open to the public?
That's open to the all residents.
Okay, yeah, all
That's a
residents.
small plaza area open to all residents.
Okay. Um, Yeah, I think that was one of my questions for now. Oh, I have one more question. So the part of the building that you can see if you're looking at Thai Chef, right? You still with me?
Yes.
We had
I am, yes.
We had talked about doing something to enhance the facade because you can see it. And yet it's this dormitory looking style facade. You decided against that?
No, we did is we put in additional windows that weren't there. And we also made them bigger. And we also made them look very similar to the ones on the side of Central Verde. Valley and Blue, apologize. So this was a much more blank space. And again, as we pointed out, if you're standing where this picture was taken, you can see it. If you move 10 or 15 feet east or west, you can see it. But after that, you can't even see it because it's so far back. But anyway, we did add all those windows there.
Okay, because you didn't say that in your summary of the changes, so I wasn't
This
sure.
wasn't a change. I'm sorry. This had been done even before.
Really?
Yeah. We did not change it, I assure you.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll jump in with a quick question. It looks like the affordable units have a lot of storage space kind of taken out of them. Was there any consideration given to changing the location of the resident storage on several of the floors?
No, those are actually great opportunities to get some additional storage for the residents out of the low and moderate units.
Yeah, I guess why put them in the low and moderate units? Why not put them, if I'm looking at A04, why not put it in the 2-bedroom all the way to the east and, take a little bit out of the 1464 square foot and add a little bit onto the 3-bedroom affordable at 1,058 square feet?
I mean, I could tell you from a perspective, those units, the affordable units, are quite large. There's certainly no mandate that says they have to be this large. So we did not do what a lot of other folks do and make them as small as possible. We think they're quite large, and we think that they can accommodate taking it out. And candidly and bluntly and straight ahead, it's better for us to do that because if we take them out of the market units, there's a difference in the rent to us at a much higher level, but we don't think that we're in any way diminishing the value of these affordable residences because they're quite large as they are. And also, when Jack made his comment, I don't know what everybody thought, these could be also rented out by affordable. These are not very affordable tenants. This is not something you have to pay hundreds of dollars for. We just wanted to have a number of them everywhere. And it's not one for each little block. They could be broken up into 2 or 3 or 4.
I agree with that. And as far as the low and moderate units that I'm seeing throughout, the affordable units I'm seeing, that 3-bedroom at that size is actually quite generous.
Okay.
Can I ask another question, just since we're talking about affordable housing? It seems like this project doesn't have the 20% affordable housing that we have by ordinance. It was negotiated down to 10%, not 15%, not 18%, but 10%. And now with your change, you've gone and you've reduced another affordable unit. I find that very distressing.
Well, actually, to be accurate, we did not negotiate anything.
Oh, I know you didn't.
Under
I'm
the
talking
redevelopment plan,
yeah, our council did.
redevelopment plan, like most, if not all the redevelopment plans, provides for 10% affordable housing because obviously Montclair has already met its requirement, even though you have an idea. We did not change a single thing. We make it 10%. We don't make it 12, which is why there's one less unit. We don't make it 8 and ask for a deviation. We do exactly what the plan says.
I understand that. That's the minimum that you could have done, and you do that.
No, it doesn't say the minimum. Actually, it says it's 10%. It does not say at least 10%.
Nothing says you couldn't do more. And certainly
it says we couldn't do a lot of things that the plan doesn't say. And I don't know why you're being, this is something that went through many discussions quite a long time ago. And I know you obviously have some problems with this building or the project. I'm not sure exactly what, but we're doing exactly what the Sienna did, exactly what the Seymour project did, and any other redevelopment projects that we're not aware of. And it's exactly 10%. And you round up. So, before we rounded up, and at this point, we're exactly
even. That's correct. As far as I know, the 10% is what's required, and we provided that amount.
So, Mr. Raker, Mrs. Stoller, what's your definition of quite generous, which is going back to the 3-bedroom? What are the normal, regular 3-bedrooms that you are seeing? What is the square footage on them? What are you using as a basis of comparison?
Generally, the 3 bedrooms that I've designed in most projects are between 925 and 975 square feet.
And what projects are those?
I apologize that you broke up a little there, so I didn't hear you.
What projects are you talking about? How many? Are you talking about one project? Are you talking about 100 projects?
I'm involved
in Northern New Jersey. Could you be a little more specific?
Absolutely. I'm involved in projects.
Okay, hold on for a second. We've got a lot of feedback going on. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Projects from Morris Plains over to Jersey City and Hoboken and down as far south as, below south of Trenton. And generally, those 3 bedrooms don't vary too much. There are some developers who do them a little bit larger in the 975 to 1,000 square foot range, and there are some that do them even smaller to the 925, 950 range. Teaneck is another project I just completed, and all of those affordable units, the 3-bedroom was well under 1,000 square feet, 925, 950.
Okay, well under is 925 or 950.
And they're,
I'm just trying to understand. I wouldn't consider that well under. I would consider that slight. 50,000. 50 between 950 and 1,000. I don't call that well under. So I'm trying to get a little bit of perspective on how you're using the language, and just to understand, because I see a 1-bedroom next door that's basically 2/3 the size, and then you added 2 more bedrooms, but
that's correct. Absolutely.
Just trying to get some perspective.
And, I just want to say that, there are a variety of sizes of units in this project, from the 1-bedroom to the studio.
We're not talking about a variety of I'm sorry, we're not talking about a variety of what you're charging for market rate, okay? We're talking about what the affordable are. I can look at the plans, and it's apparent from the plans that all of the market rate units are much larger, comparatively speaking, per bedroom than these units are. So that's why I'm just asking the questions, to put them in perspective, because you're kind of minimizing, saying that, they're very generous, but I'm just trying to understand how you define generous.
And I'd like to point out, Chairman, I'd like to point out that our ordinance requires that they be comparable. And I don't know if this layout shows that the affordable units are comparable in size to the market units.
They're comparable as far as the materials and finishes. If there are granite countertops and stainless steel appliances in the units, there will be those in the affordable units as well. We're not changing any of the finishes in those units versus
Well,
the
Mr.
other
Raker, how about the number of bathrooms? You know, if the two-bedroom has two bathrooms, does the affordable unit have two bathrooms?
No, it would not. It would get one bathroom. A two-bedroom, one-bath unit is not a bad unit. I've spent many of my life in a
but what I'm
two-bed,
asking
one-bath
is,
apartment.
along the line of question that the chair had, it should be comparable to the market rate units. And if the market rate units have two bathrooms, then the affordable should as well. How many bathrooms does the three-bedroom unit have?
The three-bedroom unit would have one bathroom.
No, the market rate three-bedroom unit.
There is no market rate three-bedroom unit.
Oh, so you only have a two-bedroom unit. That's the largest unit, and that has two bathrooms.
Correct.
But the three-bedroom affordable unit only has one. That doesn't seem to be comparable to me.
Oh, it is comparable. It's comparable, especially from a size standpoint. You would provide the comparable amount of amenity from the size of the unit. We have a variety of sizes of units, and you would provide the amenity comparable to that size.
But Mr. Raker, aren't the affordable units all smaller than the market rate units?
Absolutely.
So then how can it be comparable?
Not all of the units in the project are the same size. They vary from.
But if all of the affordable units are smaller, if all of the affordable units are smaller, how can they be comparable?
They are
we understand that you're saying that the finishes are comparable, but the unit is more than its finishes. I think that's the point.
Correct, but there's also variety. I wouldn't compare the one-bedroom units aren't comparable in the project. Then, if you're saying that they vary in size, we have a one-bedroom market rate that's $785 and a one-bedroom market rate that's $937.
These units are supposed to be comparable, and that's the problem.
So
they're drastically smaller.
I just want to understand this comment that you're saying that
I would say drastically smaller. I wouldn't characterize them as generous. I would say that they're a lot smaller.
I'm just trying to understand your comment, because we have market rate units that are different sizes. Okay, so we have a market rate unit that's $789 and a one-bedroom unit, that same type of unit, but it's 950 square feet. Do those two units have to be comparable?
I would think
they're comparable relative to.
I would think that
what they are on the market.
I think the affordable unit should be in the middle of the range, not at the bottom of the range.
Yeah, that was my only question. That you do look at square feet, then you look at bathrooms, then you look at finishings, and you're looking for an apartment. Are there any affordable units that are larger? You talk so much about the variance than any of the market rate units, or are they all a smaller square foot?
Well, I have the three-bedroom is larger than the market rate one-bedroom.
Yes, at the same bedroom.
So, I mean, they're
bedroom level.
But there's more people going into that space. That's the whole problem. There's more people going into a three-bedroom apartment, so you don't compare a three-bedroom apartment with a one-bedroom apartment. Give me a break.
Yeah.
I really don't think we need to turn it into a debate either at this point. I think we all see what's going on. We can see the plan. You're really not offering a good explanation for the differences between the apartments.
They are comparable in finishes, but they are not comparable in size.
Okay.
But none of the units in the project are comparable in size.
But
so I'm not sure I understand that.
We're talking about an ordinance for affordable housing. So you're bringing in apples when we're talking about oranges here. So,
and I can also say
we can move on. We can move on from this.
Okay, well, I just want to answer the question. Can I please answer the question?
No, well, I think wait a minute. Hold up. I think you've answered my question. I haven't put another question out there. All right? Unless you're going to say something that you haven't said already, then you don't need to repeat what you've already stated.
I will say something I haven't said already.
Good.
I will say
Let's hear
that
it.
there is no project in New Jersey that I have done where the affordable units are the same size as the market rate units.
Okay.
In any township.
Are there any other questions on the board?
Well, on that one point, I would just say that our understanding from any project is that there are COA guidelines. And
Again, Mr. Solar, I didn't ask you a question. And, you know, I think we understand, you've made it very clear as to why the apartments look like they are, and, you know, as to what your position is, what's comparable in the state. Again, unless you're going to say something that we haven't heard already, then I would say that comment goes better at the end of the presentation, when you're summing up and when your attorney is summing up. All right?
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
From the board
From
or
the
from the
board.
public? Okay, from the board.
From the board of the architect. Okay. Do we have any questions from the public regarding the architect's testimony?
Yes. This is William Scott. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Obviously, the questioning about the affordable units have been well undertaken. I just wanted to take a look at the zoning ordinance, section 347-160, provisions of affordable housing off-site. If these units were off-site affordable units shall be substantially similar in size and quality of the on-site affordable units that otherwise would be required. Now, if they're not willing to build the substantially similar sizes on-site, how about recommending them build them off-site and they would be substantially the same in quality and size?
I don't believe we're planning to build units off-site.
Then you should be meeting the same.
Hold on, I'll try.
The same requirements for off-site, substantially similar in size and quality, should apply to the on-site units. If square footage is square footage, we're not compromising on that. Shouldn't be.
We are not planning to
Time
build
out.
units off-site. The proposal in front of us is to build the units on-site.
All right, so the answer is you're only going to build them on site. And Mr. Scott, do you have another question, a different question?
Well, the question would be, will the on-site units be substantially the same for the affordable units?
And in my opinion, they are substantially the same. And you know, we do a lot of projects that go before housing judges, and they see that these units can be smaller in size. There is no regulation on that size for the units. We make them open. We design them this very similar way. Open floor plans, very generously appointed. In my mind, you know, very nice apartments. The affordable units are.
Mr. Chairman,
I could take pictures of them, and you wouldn't be able to tell a market rate apartment from an affordable apartment.
Except for the size, I guess. Mr. Troutner.
Oh, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, we're hearing obviously what the board is saying. Looking at Montclair's code, I'm not sure it's quite as black and white as in some ways it's been presented, but we certainly understand the sentiment. We want to take a look at this and see if we can address some of these concerns that have been raised. Rather than, I'm concerned that there's a picture that we're digging our heels in here, which we're not. So with that being
said, sounds like it.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant. We want to take a look at this and address this because that's not our intention. Is to not be in compliance with the ordinance or the code or the APOA rules, and certainly to not have a picture that we're not appropriately addressing the affordable units as compared to the market rate units.
I would just say on that, sorry, at one point, Jack is a terrific architect. Minowasco is a great firm, but the question was more of the developer than of the architect. The architect is telling you that that's not what he typically does. We thought as the developers that these were generous. We were under that impression. If there is any compromise or inability to make these work well, what we're going to do is ask the architect to look at the 4 units and look at layouts for some. If we need to add additional square footage by making some of the adjoining ones a little smaller, we'll do that.
Do we have any questions from any other questions from the public? Mr. Scott?
I do have one more question in regard to the, I'm not sure if I missed anything from a parking standpoint, but will the affordable units have their parking included and not be a separate cost?
Whatever, I don't know what the requirements are, candidly. I can't tell you off the bat, but if that's part of the code requirements, that they don't get charged. All the market rate tenants charge of some kind, and if the code requirements, I just can't remember, or that they don't pay in any way, then we'll comply. But again, we are looking to adhere to the Montclair code, the COA codes, and not create our own, better or worse. But again, on the unit size, if it's subjective, then we certainly want to look at that. As far as the parking, we'll follow whatever the rules say.
And I appreciate that response. I mean, obviously, you being one of the partners / owners of the building, pretty much determine from your leasing agreements what those additional obligations might be from a parking standpoint.
Yes, and again, if the co-regulations are that affordable housing tenants should not pay for anything in particular, whether it be parking or anything else, then we won't charge. If the regulations say they pay less, then we'd have them pay less. We're just going to follow the regulations. We're not going to try to rewrite what took 30 plus years in New Jersey to come to, which are some pretty straightforward affordable housing regulations.
Okay, we'll look into this a little bit further then.
Yes.
Other questions from the public?
I had a question.
Mr. Giosa.
So the plan that you described, I believe needs 85 spaces by code and only 73 are provided. How is the difference justified? We didn't get any parking report accompanying the new submission.
Well, it's because we didn't change it. I believe that there was extensive testimony previously by the folks who do that for a living like you do, not me. And I think we talked about whatever that was. And again, I was asked before, I want to go back and trample over testimony that traffic engineers and civil engineers gave as to what the limitations are and what we're able to provide. We certainly think it's more than adequate because in the end, we have even more than any of the other redevelopment projects, including Ballard's River next door. But we didn't change anything on this one from the last time.
Okay, so the testimony that Mr. Penke gave back in February included 6 exclusions for the retail space, and I'll just read them off just to remind everyone. The exclusions were no fast food, no bar, no
Hold on, a little bit slower, Jerry.
Okay.
No fast food.
No fast food, no bar. Tavern, alcohol service, restaurants with table service, and any eating establishment would have a maximum of 30 seats. So the testimony given by Mr. Penke back in February, you're saying is still continues through to this application?
It does, and again, as I said before, because of a change in, I think, preferences, and I think it's going to last. I don't think a vaccine's going to come out and everybody's going to go back to everything we had before. I think this type of approach that we have is really going to be what folks want. We have under 30 seats, and we are completely in agreement. Testified before.
Okay. And just one final question, would the 30-seat limit also extend to the outdoor seating area?
I don't know. I didn't think that it did. If there's an interest in having us take chairs out of the inside so they could be on the outside. You know, the outside seats, candidly, might be somebody who's not even eating here. We're not going to be able to, it's a public space. So if somebody, bless you, if somebody in the public wants to walk over with their sandwich from somewhere else and sit there, it's not going to be the type of thing where the retail restaurants controlling it. So I don't think they should fairly be included, but we're also not controlling them in any way. We're going to put them out there every time when the weather gets nice, and they're going to be for the public. And if there's somebody who comes out of this location with something and there's a chair for them and they want to sit there, fine. If 10 other people are there who didn't buy anything from this restaurant, that's our understanding if it's a public space. It's understanding how they work.
Let me interject here. I think you should just leave. I think the conditions should stand as they are. I think you said they were okay, and the rest of it's got to work itself out in the field.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Any other questions from the public?
This is Mike Dannemiller. There was one comment from Barton Ross that I'd just like to clarify. The fourth bullet mentioned domes on brick pavers, and they cover this, but you need two things on ADA, on curb ramps, on truncated domes and contrasting. You certainly can use integrated pavers, as was recommended there, but at the ramps, it would have to be of a contrasting color.
Okay. Got it. Don,
Other questions? Anything, Janice?
No, I don't
All
see
clear?
anybody.
Okay. All right, Mr. Troutner.
Mr. Chairman, candidly, that would conclude our presentation of our witnesses for this evening. Although if the board and Mr. Chairman, if you might indulge, if we could take a break for a moment, I just want to speak to my client in terms of some of the subject of tonight's discussion in terms of where we are and where we're headed next.
All right, fine. We'll take a 5-minute recess and let us know when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. we need to, consistent with our comments a few moments ago, take a look at these plans and come back with a revised layout that is going to address certain issues such as number of bathrooms in 3-bedroom units and closing any gaps that exist regarding the size of affordable units versus market rate units, and we believe we're going to be able to accomplish that. So with your permission, Chairman, and the board's permission, we would respectfully be able to come back and make one revision and show that and hopefully satisfy concerns that have been expressed.
All right, Janice, what do we look like schedule-wise?
I can schedule you for September 14th.
So roughly a month, is that enough time to get revisions and circulate it to everybody? You are muted, Mr. Troutner.
Sorry. So for just this singular issue, plans just to address this, I think we could do September 14th.
Okay. And go ahead. Were you going to say something, Janice?
No.
I was going to say something. I was just wondering, is the board satisfied with all the concerns about the parking and the variances that are requested?
Well, I think the testimony and the evidence is what it is. And they haven't done any revision to, to substantially change those things other than what has been presented to us. So if you have issues, Carol, if you have a specific issue that you want to raise, and likewise any other person on the board, if there's a specific concern that hasn't been raised this evening that, you would like to raise, it's probably wise to do it now.
That's what I was wondering, because I wasn't quite satisfied that the testimony on parking quite solved all the issues about the amount of parking available versus the amount of units and the needs. We're down a number of spaces, and I don't think they've really explained why that's justified.
Any other issues that the
I'm sorry.
board, or questions that the board
respond
has?
now, or you want to wait? Sorry.
Well, I would suggest that that issue was raised this evening, and basically the response was that you've put the testimony in, and you've explained the situation with the parking, and you feel that the variance is supported by the evidence that has already been entered into evidence and on the record. If you as the applicant are satisfied with that, are comfortable with that, fine. If you think that it needs to be, that there's possibly some other adjustment or explanation or whatever that could be offered that hasn't been offered yet, then I would say that you should present it to us with the next meeting. I don't think explaining it now, trying to explain it or re-explain it now is going to accomplish anything.
Well, I would like to clarify, because I think there was a couple of statements that were at least inconsistent, or maybe not explained by us. So just for clarification,
okay,
the exact conditions that our traffic engineer spoke about on the record, we are expressly stating that we would agree with those, and Mr. Giosa wants those conditions. And then the second thing is obviously we reduced the 6 units, so there's that many more spaces for the restaurant.
Right.
I guess my
Is
concern
there
basically,
anything? Go ahead, Carol, sorry.
I was just going to say that my concern basically is that the amount of retail space is relatively small. It is the justification for the building. I raised that before we revised it. That was one of the things that was raised some months ago that I particularly was concerned about, and that the number of spaces is small for the amount of apartments that are there. And I do appreciate the reduction in 6 apartments. But I was just thinking that if we're going to ban a barriers for parking, that we ought to be getting some benefit that really is, of value. And if we were offering more affordable units, if we were giving a little bit more to the retail, that is the reason why the increase is granted to begin with. I could see the reduction in parking as a variance, but right now it just seems to me that we've got another big apartment building which needs a variance, which is depending on the apartments, not the other benefits that were sought by the mere fact that we up the amount of density that's there. So I'm a little disappointed that what has come back hasn't dealt with that issue a little bit better than it did.
Well, I just think that all we did, and it's not that we didn't do anything to address it, we complied exactly with Mr. Giosa's requirements for the standards and the conditions that were only spoke about on testimony. We have met the amount of spaces for the retail that he suggested would be required. And we think that a lot of people, I mean, just realistically, a lot of people are walking to this from the local residents. We have more parking than any other redevelopment project has by far. And we're only 40 units. So we think we have addressed it. We just asked the board's consideration and realizing that we now have 29 spaces on a Saturday night at the busiest time. Obviously it gets better other times. And this is 2,300 square feet, but we think we've made it a very valuable 2,300 square feet, along with the public plaza, which we didn't have to agree to make it public. Now it's really for the neighborhood. And I think a substantial percentage of the patrons will walk there. But we still have almost 29 spaces for a place that only has 28 seats. So the idea that every single person, there'd be 5 or 6 or 7 employees, the idea that, for 28 seats, 23 cars are going to come there, we think we're going to be more than adequate. We just hope the board would consider that. So we're really following what Mr. Giosa required.
One more question. You have bicycle racks, right?
Yes.
You do. Okay.
And we would like to work with an e-bike company. As you know, with my other not-for-profit hat with the coalition, we've been trying to move that whole thing forward. And hopefully Montclair will be able to get into that swing of that. But certainly we'd like to have e-bikes as a possibility.
All right, any other comments from the board? If not, then Mr. Galvin, do we need any extensions or anything like that on the record?
Yes.
Oh, can't hear you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, do we need any extensions
Tom.
or anything from Mr. Troutner on the record with respect to this adjournment?
Yeah, we consent.
And
okay.
And do we want
whatever we need?
Do we want to carry this without further notice?
Yeah.
They did notice for tonight's meeting, so.
Thank you.
So we'll carry to September 14th without further notice. Did I get it right?
Right.
Sounds right.
So we need a motion?
Oh, I don't think we need a motion. I think we're good. I think we're good for September. Thank you, Mr. Troutner. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
everybody. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Stoller?
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda. Janice, you had mentioned something at the start of, well, before the meeting started.
Yeah, the master plan subcommittee met has met a couple times. We drafted some potential changes to the master plan. The subcommittee met last Thursday and had a lengthy discussion about what they want to see. And there was a decision by two of the members to amend the master plan to incorporate the Safe Streets Plan by reference into the master plan and not physically integrate it into the master plan. But there was not a unanimous agreement that that was the way to go. So I do have a draft of the amended language for the redevelopment plan. It's actually fairly simple. And we can certainly discuss it tonight if you feel, and then decide if we want to have a public hearing to amend it by incorporating it by reference.
Could I just say something there?
Well, hold up before we get to that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Galvin, but incorporating something by reference is virtually the same as physically putting it in. It doesn't make a difference, whether the pages are attached or not if you're incorporating it by reference, correct?
I agree.
So if we're going to have a discussion about it, if we're going to have a further discussion about it, we should get Tony on the line, because he did request to be brought back into the discussion.
Okay. You hold on.
The other thing too, Mr. Chairman, is I think at some point you want to get Art's input.
Want to get whose input?
Your regular attorney.
Yeah.
Because I might give you the right answer that's wrong.
You'd never give us the wrong answer, Dennis. I'm surprised you'd even suggest that.
I was gonna ask, what is the legal definition of?
I'm sorry. Was that
Tony?
you, Robin?
Robin, yes. Sorry.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I had to come on video because I don't have enough power in my iPad. It's going to go dark on me. So,
can everybody hear Robin?
And Tony's on.
Oh,
okay.
So I was asking what the legal definition is of reference.
I'm sorry. Janice is rushing paper, so I can't hear.
I'm sorry. The question is, what is the definition of incorporating the plan by reference?
That's right.
Basically, it means that you're saying that the plan is incorporated into the master plan, even though the pages of it aren't physically present in the master plan. In other words, you'd have to refer to the separate document, but it's just as much a part as if it was attached in full. We attorneys use that all the time.
Right, you're eliminating
incorporating things by reference.
Yeah, you're eliminating the work, the focus that a lawyer would do to put it actually into the document, but it's still part of the document.
Okay.
Right. You still have to, and every bit of it is as if it were written into the document that it's incorporated into.
Okay. Thank you.
And that was my objection. That was one of my main objections, that it seems to me that it was being incorporated. Am I heard?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Am I heard?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. That was one of my concerns. And the other is that they've also changed from just incorporating the 17 or 20 pages to saying that they would like to incorporate the whole 176 pages into the document, which makes it, at least as long or longer than the document to start with. So I was very concerned about that. And as is, all of it, as is. And there are a number of things in that document that are inconsistent with our master plan. In fact, inconsistent with what's in the document as well.
That would be a problem eventually.
And Jen,
I know
you
one of the
noted
things that you had said, John.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I know that you had said, John, that at the last meeting that we had about this, that it's very difficult for us as a board to deal with all the implications of what people could possibly say was in the plan if we do something as broad as that. And I would like perhaps that maybe there could be some clarification from the attorney or from you or somebody as to just how serious this decision is.
Well, my concern has been that we incorporate something into the master plan that will come back to haunt us at a later date because someone, while we may not be intending for something to be taken as a approved method or a must-do method, by incorporating it without qualification, it then becomes open to be cited in the future as something that the board has recommended and signed off on when maybe that's not the case. I know personally, my personal perspective on the Smart Street Plan is that I don't agree with everything that's in that. And I would not personally want to see that incorporated verbatim into the master plan. And I think that's what I said last meeting.
This is Tony. I have an idea in terms of how this might be handled. The master plan called for.
Please tell us, Tony.
The master plan called for the creation of an implementation plan, and that was done. And a professional firm, NV5, produced a document. We should have NVI present the plan to us so that we can fully understand it. They did something with community input that they thought was directed by our master plan. I think it'd be really difficult for us to have an opinion one way or another if we don't receive input from the professional firm. I would also caution us, I don't think that we should edit someone's professional work. I think that if there needs to be changes, I would call the author of that and we can give suggestions and maybe they can do an amendment. But I wouldn't take someone's product and then edit it. So,
well, we as a board have rewritten other expert reports. That is within our purview, that is within our power. These reports are to us, they're not written in stone authority. They are expert opinion. And if we have a different opinion, it is within our purview to edit and refine. And quite frankly, if it would seem inefficient to tell the professional, we want you to edit it this way or that way, instead of just doing it ourselves.
Well, I think this is less of an opinion than what it's showing. It's a menu of possibilities it's a menu of choices that Montclair can take with respect to going about a safe streets plan. So if everyone, personally, I am not comfortable with, what's wrong with having them come in and present to us? I mean, that's a question. What is wrong with getting some additional knowledge?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a problem with presenting, but I don't think we need to have them rewrite if we don't want to. I don't think it's required that if we wanted it changed in some way, that we would have to pay for them to do it. I think we're perfectly qualified to do that ourselves. And in fact, planning boards in the past have done that to master plans, to other sorts of proposal plans and that have been presented to us. We are, when you get down to the brass tacks of it, we on this board are the experts about about Montclair. We're the ones who live here. We're the ones who experience it on a daily basis. And in many respects, we are more qualified to rewrite certain things from our basic everyday life experience here in town. So
I
don't
agree,
I don't
think what
necessarily
could be done in that
disagree.
case was you could have the NV5 plan exist, and the planning board can write a memo saying, we've reviewed it, we understand it, and we agree with, for example, if there are certain types of parking configurations that would be eliminated because of bike lanes, the planning board could write a memo saying that we've reviewed the NV5 plan, it has been presented to us. We would strongly discourage these options that plan presents. It could be very simple to do that.
Why wouldn't we just edit the plan?
Well, I think it would be just so much more efficient. The plan is a product that's been produced, and if there's certain options, well, how about this? How about if we just hear it presented, and then we could debate what options are in front of us after we more fully understand it?
We could do that if members of the board feel that that would be a benefit to have a presentation from them. We could do that.
I can work with
How do
NV5.
other members of the board feel about that?
When was the plan made? How old is it? Is it 3 years old?
Yeah, it was 2017.
Okay.
I think, may I offer some stuff? I think we're using the word edit when we want to be using the word amend, because that's what you do with the master plan, you amend it. The other thing is, you're talking about a safe street element that would be added to the master plan. I have no idea what you actually want to do, but I think that has to be vetted and you have to agree to what the standards are going to be. And then you just include that as an element into the master plan.
Right. And I think what NV5 has offered to come and discuss it with the planning board. So I can certainly schedule a meeting to have Mike come and discuss it with you.
Well, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad idea, but there has been concern expressed by the board about the amount of time this is all taking, and it's holding up. The bicycle element is holding up the pedestrian element.
And yeah, I think that was building
what do we do
on
about that?
Yeah, building on Robin's point, this is from 3 years ago. They presented it to us 2 years ago. So I think NV5 coming and resolving lingering questions could be constructive. I personally don't think we need that to proceed, but if people do have outstanding questions that weren't answered in the presentation they made before, although the one before was for the drafters of the document. So, open to that as well. I just want to make sure if we do have them come speak with us, they come speak with us. We're going to have a process going forward to amend the master plan as discussed, so we don't kind of spin around for too much longer.
Well, in defense of our own positions, it's certainly not our fault that this thing has been delayed. This thing hasn't been a matter before the board to act on. We just got this like 2 weeks ago when the subcommittee issued some comments. So I don't think that we should feel necessarily at fault for delaying anything. And we haven't talked about this in 2 years.
Before we said, when we initially heard it, though, we were saying we need more information, we need the pilot, we need, many other things. And so we went down the path of the pilot, but it had not been referenced in our master plan, or the master plan had not been amended to reference this. And so, hard to know whether that was the reason, but we ultimately couldn't even get the pilot through, funding for the pilot. So I wouldn't say it's accurate to say we've only talked about this for the last 2 weeks. I think there has been an effort for many months, over a couple of years now, to make some progress. And in terms of the planning board, it's tough to say that there's any substantive progress that we've made, shy of progressing to public hearings on an amendment to the master plan. Because again, if it's not in the master plan, it's you know, just on paper and all talk. So.
Can I just say, I mean, it strikes me that the problem might be that there's opposition to barrier bike lanes. I mean, that's the sense that I'm getting. And if that's true, can we take a straw poll and say, would anybody accept this plan if it had barrier bike lanes or not? And if you don't want the plan with barrier bike lanes, then you have to go down a different path.
So
Or you just eliminate it.
Carmel, that's taking one small aspect of the entire plan and hinging a decision on one item in it. So I would not be in favor of taking a straw poll. I think we need to get a fuller understanding of what we're dealing with. I think that's our responsibility.
I agree with you, but I think I'm getting the sense when you talk to people about this that there's no way on earth they'd accept this plan because it has the means to do barrier bike lanes, and no way on earth would they want that in Montclair. And if that's the case, then why are we, pussyfooting around this? And let's just try to get a sense of it and move forward items that we can move forward on.
Well, I don't feel comfortable in voting for any sort of amendment or any edit without more fully understanding the purpose and all of its aspects. I read the entire thing. I think I'm very familiar with it at this point. I understand what they were trying to do, I think, very thoroughly. But I think to give it due process is okay. And if it takes another month, I really don't see what the difference is. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in Montclair right now, and I pretty much know that this is not going to move too much further in the near future. I mean, the town is dealing with an awful lot right now. I think we've got time to be able to get this right.
No, agree. I think an extra month is okay. I just didn't want it to be NV5 and then we need more information, more data, and, a month turns into a couple more years. So I think hearing from NV5 makes sense.
Okay. I don't think, Daniel, I don't think that there's any guarantee that after we hear from NV5 that more questions might come up, but, it's not necessarily a guarantee that they will. Trying to look at it realistically. I don't have a problem with bringing NV5 back in here to talk to them about it. What about some of the other members of the board who haven't been heard from on this? What do you guys think?
I can give you a couple of my thoughts. I think it'd be possibly good to have NV5 come and talk about the plan, but I do have some concerns about some of the recommendations for certain streets, and I think to address Ms. Lockman's question about is barrier bike lanes the issue. I don't have an issue per se with barrier bike lanes, but I do have some concerns about where they're placed. And just to give one small example, if you look at typology 3, 2 of the 3 alternatives remove parking entirely, and for the section of Upper Mountain Avenue that's highlighted in the report, I don't think it works. I think you remove, for those 2 of 3 alternatives, you remove parking entirely. Where do people park to go to the tennis courts and Mountainside Park and the pool? There's no side streets there that somebody could, park down maybe in a more residential area. So I struggle with things like that in this plan, and I have similar concerns in some of the other typologies. So I think for me, what would be helpful is that initial recommendation a couple of years ago is there a pilot project that we can do? And I know there's difficulty around that, but is there a pilot project? Are there other streets that we could try to target where this typology 1, for instance, might be better suited than what's highlighted in the report for that portion of Upper Mountain Avenue?
Or is there a way to make it not a blanket, application? Because what we don't want, just to take that example to the worst case scenario, we wouldn't want to adopt a report that said that we could do that and then somebody come in and want to execute a plan that does remove that parking and say, well, the board said it was okay to do that. Because they put it in the master plan.
Right, and what concerns me, also is that there's a lot of different minor arterial streets, which is that typology 1 in town. And I guess my concern is, without looking at it further, the one that's provided as an actual example in the document is one I just don't think works really at all in that area. So it kind of makes me wonder, is that, the menu of options that's been presented in here, the alternatives, the recommendations, is that actually applicable to other minor arterial streets, or do we run into the same issue? And that's part of my concern, is that without looking at that further and trying to understand, do we have similar issues in other areas, which would kind of make this a quite faulty plan, or maybe it just happens to be the authors picked this one street not knowing kind of the use of the street. So maybe it was just a minor mistake, but my concern is, does it actually not work for other typology 1s, streets within the township?
Mr. Chairman? I think one of the things to be kept in mind is that the master plan doesn't automatically become activated. The governing body's got to agree with the plan, and some of this is going to involve doing things on streets that are going to require government action. So, we want to do something that will be helpful to the governing body in carrying out the plan. So we got to give some thought to that too. And I think that you're right to be concerned that if the master plan calls for certain changes to, say, parking lots, I haven't seen the plan, but I can't understand why. Yeah, I'd be concerned about that too. I think you got to go slow there.
All right, so does everybody generally feel that it would be helpful to have the authors come in and discuss the plan one more time with them?
I would think it would be very helpful, but especially if we have them address the issues that we have expressed concern about.
Mm-hmm. This is Rob.
Go ahead, Robin.
Oh, sorry. I also think that because the document is 2-3 years old, we have a lot of new residents that have moved here since then, who might, and it would be an open meeting, and they would get a chance to see this presentation as well. So I think that would be a good thing for our residents to see it.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. And just to clarify, because so they would also be able to ask questions of NV5 Chairman. I'm just trying to get a sense of how it might flow. Or Janet.
Of the public? No, we wouldn't be having another public hearing. We wouldn't be having the type of open forum that NV5 had when they were writing the report. It would be a discussion for us as the board with the professionals that put together the report. The public can attend, but the public's not going to. Yeah.
Oh, so the public would not be able to be in the meeting, or they would be able to observe?
They can be in the meeting, they can observe, they can hear everything, but we're not opening it up for a public hearing.
Okay.
That public hearing is the phase that takes place once we decide what we as a board are going to recommend.
Okay, thank you.
I totally agree with that. And I think that Carol, John, you hit it on the head. I mean, we've got to read this thing and really understand it. And we've got a problem with it. We've got to tell NV5, this doesn't work. This is my opinion. Now's the time to tell them it doesn't work.
Right.
Before this thing goes out too far. And I think it'd be really specific about what we feel is wrong. They don't know that our town as well as we do. I guarantee you that.
Yes, that I have no doubt that that's part of the problem with this, and it's something that we've seen. We always see this over and over again. When professionals come in, and I don't know, maybe it's just the nature of our town, you know, but in that we have a lot of different elements going on here that I think defy general categorization sometimes. And, you know, we have to try and accommodate all of that. And it's cookie cutter doesn't work for us. You know, we have to have a custom fit. So,
Yeah.
when can we get them in to have this discussion, Janice?
I'll have to reach out to them. It might be October.
Okay.
Okay. Probably the
Is
second.
everybody else okay with that as the next step here?
Just on the questions Carol raised about the issues they would address, we would just raise those with them during the meeting. Is that right? I just want to make sure that October doesn't turn into a later date if we are wanting them to issue us a report before they come.
They're
At
not
this
issuing.
point, the next touch point,
Daniel,
is
Daniel,
when
they're
they
not.
come and then we post questions.
They're not issuing a report. Basically, you have the
Right.
report. They're coming to summarize it, listen to your comments or questions, and provide answers. You know, my budget's been cut in half, so we very graciously have offered to come at no charge.
Okay, good. That was going to be, that was a concern too, and that's, you know, have been my concern about having them rewrite something if we can do it ourselves in-house, you know, because it will cost us. They're not going to do it for free. But I'm glad that they're at least willing to come to talk to us for free. So,
great.
Well, let's do it in October and you know, keep it moving like that.
Good. Sounds good.
Okay.
John, before we sign
All right.
off on this, I want to know that I understand what you're saying. I was thinking that, not that we wanted to, I was thinking that we might give them some idea about what our concerns are, so that when they speak, that they will not just have a summary of what's already in the document. They'll have some cue as to what the issues are that we'd like them to kind of include in their discussion.
There's nothing that stops us from doing that. If members of the board want to submit some indications to them, you know, call out concerns.
I would suggest
that would probably facilitate the conversation.
I would suggest sending it to me.
Yeah.
Okay, and not reach out directly to Mike.
Right, routing it all through Janice. Yes.
Yeah,
definitely,
it wouldn't be fair to Mike to have everybody call him.
Right, but if we're gonna raise an issue when they get here, you know, it makes sense to, if we know what it is now, to let them know in advance, and it'll give them time to prepare. You know,
I think they'll be
a
most
answer.
appreciative for that. I think they would appreciate that.
And Janice, we don't know if it's October. You're just saying that's what you would guess right now, but there's a chance it could be even September, or you're saying October is the earliest?
No, I think September's full. I mean, we have 2 meetings in September, and I'm pretty sure I've got applications. So I would like to probably do the second meeting in October, which is the 19th. We usually use those for workshops, and I can reserve that for this discussion.
Okay, I was just checking on what's the earliest possible, but okay, that sounds good.
I plan months in advance, Daniel.
I know.
Can I ask Robin a question? Robin and Sean, what's your sense of your constituents in Montclair and their interest in biking? It seemed like in the campaign they were all over it. Is that really your sense?
For me, I have heard from many people, store owners, that they are not interested. They do not want to lose any parking whatsoever.
The parking.
It's all about parking.
Yeah.
You know, I to be honest, I have not heard, other than some of the board members from Bike Walk Montclair. I've heard from, you know, some of them, obviously, you know, after the campaign and certainly during the campaign, but I haven't heard from any store owners this time that they do not want to lose any parking, especially, you know, given that what's going on with the virus and all that. And it's very, you know, a lot of them count on like we talked about a little while ago with the new building, they have curbside pickup. They want their stores to have, the very front of their stores to be accessible. They want, a lot of them have even yellow lines, unfortunately, painted in front of their stores, and people use them anyway to pick up food, for a couple of minutes for curbside pickup. And even though that's, frowned upon, it's certainly understandable at this time. But it's all about parking. It's all about parking. And that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Agreed. I'd say it's a mixed bag. Of course, we're looking to see what can be done that's least intrusive as possible, meaning any obstructive changes that need to occur, whether that be loss of parking, the barrier conversation you guys were noting before, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we continue to explore regardless ways that are least imposing in terms of variation and modification. That also has a cost impact that would be less, which obviously is an important consideration during these COVID-19 difficult finance situations. So all of it's still being looked at, but certainly as my counsel noted, it's a mixed bag, and certainly many people are against certain changes, and I'm sure many people for as well.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
One more
All right,
question.
so
Wait, one more question.
ahead.
One more question. So maybe this is for the mayor. Are we involved in discussions on the open space looking to buy the railroad line?
I'm not sure what you mean. You may have seen that what we are doing is we are part of a number of towns that are working to get grants to provide dollars for a nonprofit entity that is looking to purchase the space and then convert it. So we're not directly doing it. We're supporting a nonprofit that is.
It's the Open Space Institute. Is that correct?
I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'll resume this in October. Any comments, any questions, any issues, please forward them to Janice so that she can appropriately filter them to the ND5, and we'll go from there. We have payment of bills on our agenda.
I don't think any bills were submitted.
And I don't think I saw any, but Keith, go ahead.
There was one bill in my hard copy packet. I didn't get it electronically, but I got a bill from Mr. Giosa dated July 23rd.
Okay.
See, you're the and see you. This is because you lost power and because you had to look at your hard copy. There was a purpose to that because I sure didn't look at mine.
And to be honest, had I had power, had I had internet, I would not have done a thorough review of the hard copy. But given that it did come out and I did review it, I would move to approve that bill.
Second.
Our CFO's recommendation is good enough for me.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. And now I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And now I need a all in motion to
Oh.
favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. All in favor?
All right,
So
everybody.
our next meeting's not till September. Did you guys get your new? Did you get a new your new calendars
Yes.
in the packet? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Then I will see you all in September.
Okay.
Great.
Right.
Right, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, good night.
Good night.
Yep, bye.
Sounds like a song.
Okay.
Great.